I believe that men are always building or destroying. I think that as a man, and as a boy even, I mean, you can see this if you watch boys, they're always building or destroying, right?
Right.
they're creating. You could look at 3-year-old boys playing. They're either building a tower or blocks, or they're kicking it down. They're making a sandcastle, or they're knocking it down, or they're knocking down someone else's. Right? They're playing football, or they're fighting each other. And it's been the case throughout history. If you think our whole society, this is going to sound sexist, but it's not, because it's just a fact. Virtually everything physical that exists was built by men. Right? Everything you can physically see, everything in this room was created by men. Right? All the buildings around the city, everything was built by men. Men build.
In a primary sense, yeah.
Yeah, men build. Like literally, physically build, construct things. We also freaking destroy a lot. Right? So look at all the wars that have taken place. Look at the wars taking place right now, whatever. Who's doing the fighting? Who's doing the killing? Who's bombing and blowing up the building? It's men. Men build, destroy, build, destroy, build, destroy, like in a very physical sense. Yeah. I think women build and destroy as well, but it's not in as literal and material a way. And, some of this is just, we've got that testosterone, right? We just have 20 times the testosterone level as the average woman. And that energy can be used for really, really positive and constructive things. But I think when it's not channeled well, it manifests in very destructive ways, right? Who does all the murders? Who does all the mass shootings? It's men.
Yeah.
Primarily young men.
All the war. That reminds me of a great clip from, it was Jordan Klepper, who was on the Daily, he was a correspondent sort of guy for the Daily Show. And he was at like a Trump rally or something. And he said, someone was like, yeah, well, we can't have Hillary as president because, she'll start a war. And he just went, haven't all the wars in history been started by men? And the person was just like, we're stumped. It's a great point. It's true. Yeah, it speaks to what you're saying.
Yeah, it's reality, man. And I think this is also why, when people get in these conversations about gender equality and sex, if you look at the top, if you look at the apex of most fields and sectors, you will find predominantly men there. Also, if you look at the bottom, you will find primarily men there, right? And there's something called the apex fallacy, which is that people tend to focus on the top, but not at the bottom. So you always will hear about how the majority of CEOs and highest paid people and, people on the executive board at different countries or whatever, it's predominantly men. And, they'll often frame it in this way. How often do they talk about the fact that most homeless people are men? Or most people who die of drug overdoses are men? Or most people who commit suicide are men? And all of that. So it's like men are just more, there's more of that extreme. Right? There's just more of that extremes. Do
you think it's that sort of testosterone driven either creation or destruction that's causing that?
I think largely because I think every man knows this, and we don't. I think it's something that's not spoken about often. I think a lot of conversations about masculinity and femininity are sort of avoided these days because we're supposed to be these gender neutral beings, but we're really not. Like men and women we're very similar in some ways, but we're also very different. And I think every man knows that as a boy growing up into manhood, you have to control and channel your masculine energy, right? Like there's a natural aggression and competitiveness and fight that's just within you as a man, which makes sense because our ancestors were fighters and warriors and built all of this stuff, right? Like,
I mean, if you were a little bitch, you weren't going to reproduce.
Yeah, it makes sense,
like,
right?
You were the first one killed on the front lines, or you were the guy in that final struggle for that last bit of food. Like you were the one that won the fight.
And what the modern day version of that is? It's sports. It's sports. The sportsmen and the way people respond and react to them. I mean, what is football? You're just trying to kick a ball into a net. What's basketball? You're trying to throw a ball into a net. What's American football? You're trying to run, or rugby, trying to run with a ball past a line.
Really
right?
Stupid games. When
they're really silly. But do you know what's interesting is they use the same skills that you would need to be a good hunter, right? Hitting a target, athleticism, speed, endurance. So top athletes probably would have been, if we lived in a more primitive societies, like top athletes would have been like the top hunters and the top fighters and the top warriors. MMA, look at MMA, literally. It's a gladiatorial arena. And and why are women so attracted to those sportsmen? Oh, he just kicks a football around. Like, why is he so hot or whatever, right? But like women love that. And I think it's very primal. It's very primal, and men admire it, right? You watch guys watching a football match, or it doesn't matter if it's American football or British football, and they're going crazy, and it's interesting. So I think, we're very advanced in a way, but we still have, of course, like all of this primal programming. And I think that's part of why playing sports is so good, because it, number one, again, it gets out that energy. It teaches you about teamwork and bonding and competitiveness, and you have to have all of that. So I think that's what it largely is. And I think as a man, I know I've felt this like my entire life, which is that there's this energy and spirit which could be destructive, right? You have a capacity to damage. Like I'm a big, strong guy. I have the physical capacity to hurt someone or to break something or to crush. But no, you channel that towards something good and something honorable and kindness and generosity and building and creation. Like everything I do is creating. And I think that's a great use of that energy. And if I'm going to attack something, I'm going to attack weights, right? I'm going to attack the gym. I'm going to build my body and so on. But I think if you don't do that, then it'll come out in some other way, right? In extreme versions, it comes out in physical violence, right? There's always the guys who are starting the fights or who want to rob someone or assault someone or kill something or do that. Like it can come out in these awful ways. And at scale, this ends up with wars and clashes and tribal battles. But it can also just come out in like other toxic ways, like going online and being that person who's sitting behind the keyboard, ranting and raving at everyone every day and cussing people out and leaving nasty comments and, leaving nasty comments towards men, nasty comments at women and so on. And it's also men who, if you notice, it's mostly men who are most of the internet trolls are men. Mm-hmm. Most of the people in prison are men. Most of the people at the top, most of the people at the bottom. So it's like, I don't know how much this has been like studied, probably not that much in this modern era, but it's interesting to me because I notice these patterns and I'm like, this is men doing this. Women have their own virtuous and pathological behaviors and some of it overlaps, but it's different. And with men, it tends to be more physical. Again, you see that with young people. I mean, if you think, how do boys bully each other? It's physical. Yeah. Right? Yeah. How do girls bully each other? It's psychological and verbal.
Cut you out.
They cut you out, right? Yeah. Right? They'll cut you out the group. No, you can't sit with us. No one talked to that girl today because she's now. But boys don't do that. Boys don't do that, right? When I was in school, they fight, right? They fight, push each other around. Someone gets punched, whatever, and so
it's all fine.
And I think this is also why social media is more psychologically damaging to teenage girls than teenage boys.
Oh,
right.
I had never considered that.
Mm-hmm. That's why. Because it's the social and psychological aspect. Boys, it's harder to, that female style of bullying can continue on the internet. With boys, they're actually safe once they're away from that because it's not physical. So they're safer. Sure, they can still be psychologically bullied, but it's less common.
I get a real kick out of hater comments. It's really funny. I call my friend. I'm like, you gotta get on the comment section now on this episode. You gotta see what this guy's saying.
It's weird though, isn't it? Like, don't you find it strange that people spend their time doing that? Yeah. I mean, you're trying to build something, right? You're a builder. You're creating, right? You're working constantly on creating things. I imagine that at no point in your day do you go, you know what? Let me go hate on the internet for 30 minutes. Let me go see what that other man is building and try to tear it down. It's like, no, I'm trying to build. I'm trying to build my thing.
Do you know what's funny? Half the time when I see something stupid on Twitter, I'm scrolling. I see something stupid. Half the time I go to write the comment and go,
and delete it. I do that multiple times a day.
It's not even worth it. Like,
I do it multiple times a day, and I'm just like, you know what? Like, I can't let this throw me off my mission. And so it's interesting, man. Like I've never formally studied psychology, but I've spent a lot of time over the past 15 years, especially just through my own life and experiences and what I do, thinking a lot about all of these topics, which is why I have these random informed hypotheses about why certain things are the way they are. Because I just see these patterns, and it's like, why is it that way, or why do women do that, or why do men do this? Like, what's the reason for those differences, and how were these behaviors somehow linked to our kind of biology? Because I think a big part of what surrounds a lot of this, and a lot about human interaction, really, and again, I don't think most people really think of it this way, and I guess you wouldn't want to explicitly think of it this way, but I think humans are always vying for social status. I think that's just something that's always gone on and is always going on, right? There's this kind of multiple hierarchies that exist in the world, and most people implicitly know somewhere around where they are. Like, I think most women know where they are in the female pecking order. Most men know where they are in the male pecking order and the overall society pecking order. And most people, especially if you're competitive and ambitious. I mean, what even is ambition? Ambition is trying to climb the ladder. If you know, when a woman says, I want a guy who's ambitious, that means a guy who is trying to climb up that competence hierarchy, as Jordan Peterson would call it, right? And you see this all the time. It explains, I think, a lot about politics, right? They're always trying to climb. Like, why do you even want to be president? Why do you even want to have that? It's like, well, I mean, that's pretty freaking high on that ladder. And you know, no one wants to be at the bottom of it. And we're all in different places on different things. You can simultaneously be in all these different places on all these different things, right? If I walk into an MMA class and I haven't done MMA before, you know, I'm going to be towards the bottom of that thing. But then if it's something I'm very proficient at, right, then I'm like, oh, okay, like, cool. I'm near the top of this one. And it makes sense because it's largely based on mating, right? It's based on mating because women typically look towards the top of various different hierarchies to determine, as do men, and see, okay, like, you know, for men, it might be we're a little more visual, and maybe we're looking primarily at
physical attributes rather than
and why is that? It's because what you actually are filtering for, again, not that explicitly, is signs of fertility, right? So all the things that make a woman attractive are things that symbolize fertility, things that suggest fertility. The things that women are often attracted to are things that symbolize security and safety, right? Whether that's big muscles, or it's having money, or it's being very competent at something, or whatever, or it's having loyalty is a factor. And it's like we're always looking for that and trying to raise it up. So, and again, there's positive ways of doing that. As they say, there's two ways to have the biggest, you know, the tallest building in the city. One is to build the tallest building. The other is to knock down all the others. So
I thought you were going to say the other one is to buy it.
I'll buy it. Yeah, well, the others to knock the other ones down. So when you see this hater behavior, or someone trying to claw away at you or rip down what you're building, it's like, oh, okay. Instead of you trying to raise yourself up, you're trying to tear this person down.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter. You can go look at a fitness model's Instagram or Twitter. Right. And he posts a photo when he's got a six pack and he's looking good. He's using steroids. Oh, he's this. Oh, I used to be bigger than him. I use that. Right. It could be whether he is or he isn't. Right. but it's like there's people who, you know, some people's brains go, man, you look great. Good job. Other people are like, that's inspiring. And then some people are like, yeah, you get admired, right?
Myron, yeah.
And then other people, it triggers them, right? Because it makes them feel smaller, like they're lower, like, oh, I don't look like that. So it's hard for me to look like that too. So I'm going to tear him down, right? Someone pulls up in a Lamborghini. What are the comments? Someone's like, man, sick car. Someone's like, man, I wonder what that guy does. Oh, that's inspiring, whatever. Someone else, I bet he's got a small dick.
I make that comment.
Right?
I make not about the nice car. Right? I want to clarify this. I don't say this about the nice car. I say that when someone drives past and their car is so fucking loud. It's just obscenely, unnecessarily loud. I'm just thinking, that guy, his penis must be so fucking huge. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment for us in the comments below. Let me know what you thought and if you'd like to see more of this from the show. Thank you, and we'll see you again next time.